My name is Noah, and I am a recovering alcoholic. I have 10 plus months of continuous sobriety, and that is no small miracle for an alcoholic like me who was, not so long ago, getting drunk every single night, regardless of whether or not I wanted to.
Hey, yeah. You're drunk. You're drunk.
And beyond the fact that I was physically drunk every single night for what seemed like forever, I obsessed about getting drunk or not getting drunk every single day, all at the same time. So I want you to know, if you're struggling, there's certainly hope. If I can get sober, I believe everyone can get sober, and I do think it's worth it. What I wanted to do in this video is talk about 10 things in no particular order that I've learned since getting sober, and just reflect on those things in case you might relate or someone you know might relate to these. Number 1, rock bottom for me was a really, really good thing. They say the bottom comes when you stop digging. I think I dug past my bottom multiple times because I've had plenty of good reasons to get sober. The one good thing that I think is universally true in my experience about getting sober this last time and hitting such a dark and treacherous bottom is that I kind of ran out of answers. I've been in trouble in the past trying to think my way out of situations that were too big for me, too complex for me. I've thought I could just figure it out. And hitting rock bottom this last time, being as sick as I was in every facet of the word, it did seem to lend itself very well to a desperation to learn and to accept help and just to do what I was told. And I'm really grateful that it got so dark and so bleak and so painful. This is one of the benefits of being sober for a little bit of time as I am, is that I can look back and go, thank God I hit such a rough, jagged bottom, because it made me pretty teachable one day at a time and really helps set the foundation for a much more useful and profound recovery, which I've been searching for, I'm pretty sure, since I was 19. Number 2, health benefits aren't enough to keep me sober. I've always wished I could be someone that read the literature on the dangers of drinking and then really beefed up on the information about how healthy you can become when you stop drinking, and let that be enough to stay sober and to move on from alcohol, which is, of course, a poison in any amount, regardless of who you are. I used to read those things and think, this is going to be awesome. Look at all the benefits. I'm going to feel better, smell better, taste better, have more energy, better mental health, all of those things. But they're not enough to keep me sober. And they've never been enough to keep me sober. And that's never been more clear to me than it is right now in this round, in this really fortunate round of sobriety, is that being healthy is not going to be what keeps me sober. It has to be something deeper. It has to be something more meaningful, more profound, and it needs to be something less focused on me. 12-step recovery has helped make that very, very clear to me. At some point, I will feel really good. And for my story, I will look pretty good too from a physical standpoint. That all happens, and once that happens, I still find myself wishing and thinking there must be more. This round of sobriety, I have pursued a deeper avenue of purpose and meaning. I've dug into more existential stuff and spiritual practices and principles, coupled with the health benefits, which are great, and it's led to a lot more peace. And it allows the ancillary stuff, like my skin being better, my breath being better, my sleep being deeper, just to be bonuses, but not to be the crux of what would ever be able to keep me sober or give my sobriety more meaning. I hope that makes sense. Number 3, I've learned that my brain needs and needed time to heal. I was someone who got drunk all the time, and the first few months of getting sober were fairly difficult in the sense that I would fall prey or victim to some mental health issues kind of out of nowhere, but it wasn't really out of nowhere when I consider where I came from and the burden I put on my neurochemistry, being someone who got drunk all the time. So I've really learned that consistency, time, patience, and then getting a ton of support is going to be really important for me to stay sober, because there will be, and there has been, times where it just felt like a little bit too much. The rumination felt a little too loud, and the worry was too steep, and the depression or the sadness was too consistent, and I got overwhelmed. So with support, with some education, and with time, I've realized that my brain just needed a chance to heal. And it wasn't going to be getting sober and feeling like $1,000,000 right off the bat, although there was an internal relief that came pretty quick after. And the longer I've been sober, the more consistent my mental health has been, the more work I've put into my recovery and my mind and my body and my relationships and my spiritual health, the more I can depend on my mood to be a certain way, which is something I never could in active addiction. I was kind of perpetually miserable and angsty until I got drunk, and then getting drunk stopped being something that was giving me relief, and it was a nightmare. So that's been really good for me to be mindful of. Number 4, I've learned that I can't just not drink. In the past, I've gotten in trouble with thinking that alcohol was inherently the problem, the only problem, and then if I just stopped drinking, everything would be okay. And I would suddenly be this person I was supposed to be. And I would get successful and I would be happy. And then I wouldn't care about alcohol anymore. And that wasn't my experience in the past. In the past, in varying ways to different degrees, I've tried to be the same person I was and do the same things that I always did, but just take alcohol out of the equation. A pretty easy example of this would be spending time around people that are drinking and thinking it wouldn't impact me because I'm bigger than it and I'm beyond it and I've ascended. I don't take that approach anymore. I'm far more cautious, and I've also adopted a different principle that I didn't come up with, of course, that I need to be prepared to walk a different path, live a different life, and adopt different attitudes and ideas in order to be successful, if I'm willing to take any true inventory of what's happened in the past with my drinking and my history of relapse. And I've really taken that serious. I think this goes back to the first point I made. That rock bottom has given me a chance to just try to be willing to do things differently and to understand that for me, I'm gonna have to let go of that old life that wasn't serving me and wander off into this brave new one that's honestly been far more rewarding and incredible than I ever could have imagined. A little abstract, but I think you catch my drift. Number 5, I've learned that I want God in my life. I think that I've always been insecure about God. I've been insecure privately in my own mind, thinking I wasn't worthy or good enough. I've been insecure publicly in saying I believe in God, or I think I'm a Christian, or I'm pursuing Jesus. I've always thought other people were so brave and so cool to have that, and thought I was different or broken or wrong and I just couldn't or wouldn't. And I know I was afraid of what other people would think. I've dealt with and maybe still deal with some fear of what you guys would think if I told you that I'm pursuing being a Christian man at this point in my life, and I'm looking for God and praying to God and looking for spiritual help every single day, because I didn't want you to judge me. And I've heard people talk so nasty about people that are a part of an organized religion or a disorganized religion, and it's made me scared. But one thing is for sure, this round of sobriety has made it abundantly clear that I want God in my life. I need God in my life. I don't want to follow man anymore in the ways that I was. And I just want a chance to build towards higher purpose for myself. No more foxhole prayers for me is my goal. I want to be someone who every single day gets on his knees, or at least sits on the end of his bed, and asks God to direct my thinking. This is something 12-step recovery has implored me to do. And because of my inherent brokenness and my fallible nature and the way my life has gone prior to doing my best on a daily basis to adopt this attitude, I find myself drawn to it and willing to do it, and comforted very much by the idea of a power greater than myself, by the idea of an all-loving God who's going to watch over me, and by the idea of going towards spiritual principles and seeking to be the best version of myself and the healthiest version of myself as I can, as opposed to my ego-driven, fear-driven, success-driven. Whatever was going on before just wasn't working. I take great comfort in pursuing God in my life and treating that with tenderness and with respect. And I just never did that before, and I never wanted to talk about it before. I just know that it's bringing me tremendous sense of peace, and I'm all about peace these days. Which brings me to my next topic, number 6. Peace of mind is endlessly more important to me than a buzz. I can't believe how consistently uncomfortable I was in active addiction. Just perpetually uncomfortable. Alcohol was this beautiful catch-all for my discomfort for a very, very long time. And I knew that the cost was a pricey one. I knew that the fall off was a lengthy one when it came to the give and the take of alcohol. Drink alcohol, find relief for a handful of hours, depending on how late I was staying up, but suffer pretty significantly thereafter. But it's still, alcohol was so comforting and soothing for so long that it just seemed worth the trade, I guess. Or I was just addicted. Now, nothing to me is more important than my peace of mind. And my peace of mind, as I've alluded to, or maybe hopefully explained fairly clearly, is far more than the physical withdrawal of alcohol. My peace of mind is being able to look myself in the mirror and not have cognitive dissonance, not be in a space of thinking I'm one way, believing I know who I am, but behaving in a completely different way. This was something that I lived in. This dichotomy was something that really struck me down in active addiction, because I'd look in the mirror and just be so ashamed of what I saw. I wouldn't see light in my eyes. I wouldn't see integrity in my actions. I wouldn't see hope anymore. I would see sickness physically, sickness emotionally, and what I've come to believe is spiritual sickness as well. So being able to lay my head on the pillow at night and take a deep breath and feel calm and feel the warmth of my covers and feel the love and the safety in my marriage with my wife and feel the peace in my life and the serenity that mostly washes over me each day, it's absolutely priceless to me, and it's more than any artificial buzz could ever even come close to. I covet it, I respect it, and I try to re-up and reimagine that respect every single day, because it only takes one drink. Like, a drink is this far away. It's an arm length away for me. It only takes one drink to catapult me back into a really chaotic, a really dark and bleak existence. So peace of mind is worth more than that buzz, and I try to be respectful of it every single day, because I remember what it was like to long and yearn for it. And it was a really, really terrible place to live. And it's just not where I'm at anymore. Number 7, I've learned to truly care about other people. I stopped wanting to be around people as an active drinker. I found relationships with other people to be tiresome. I noticed that it was really difficult for me to experience an energy transfer with other people. I was so void and drained that everything was essentially stressful. And so conversations with people, specifically deep and meaningful conversations with people, were very overwhelming, and I wasn't interested in them. I didn't get energy from them. I didn't have the mental, physical, emotional capacity to pour energy into others. At least I don't think I did. If anything, I was good at faking it. I have this memory of being out to dinner with a friend, and I hadn't seen them in a long time, and I was in principle happy to see them, but I was spending the entire time thinking about my drinking. How much had I drank? How much more will I drink? When will this conversation be over so I can go home and drink the way I want to? That sort of internal dialogue went on perpetually for me, and it took me away from people. Alcohol truly took me away from my fellow man, from my wife, from everyone. It was me and alcohol. That's what I longed for. That's what I looked forward to. I enjoyed the isolation of drinking as well. I found drinking with others to be tiresome because there was this facade I was trying to maintain as to how much I was drinking and what was really going on. And in sobriety, I've been so pleased and so glad to see just how much I do care about other people. And I've learned to care about other people. And then from probably a brain chemistry perspective, my brain responds very warmly now to spending quality time with other people, because there's no longer anywhere I need or want to be almost ever. Probably not every time, but almost always. Wherever I am, that's where I wish to be. And whoever I'm speaking to, that's who I want to be talking to. And I can feel energy from them. And I can actually have a thought to see if I can make their life better. And I can ask real questions with genuine interest in their answers. Sobriety, recovery, 12-step work, God, And time has really helped turn me into someone who cares about others. And I'm really relieved to know that, because I was very, very selfish and self-centered in active addiction. And I have to fight certain tendencies to make things about me still. And it's a beautiful thing, and it makes me happy. And it just makes life more joyful. I'm not in a rush these days, and that's a really good thing. Number 8, this one's a simple one, but food is way, way better in sobriety. And it is not uncommon, if you're eating with me, to notice me closing my eyes and making noises that note satisfaction constantly. I love the taste of food in sobriety. I believe that my palate was extraordinarily dulled down when I was hungover. Plus I was sick, so I wasn't interested in eating, not really. It wasn't uncommon for me to wait till after I was drunk to eat for the first time every day. And then drunk eating was not satisfying either, because I would eat too fast, I would inhale too much, and I was so drunk that I conflated what was giving me pleasure anyway, and I knew it. And it's absolutely a certainty that in sobriety, I find myself deeply connected to food and deeply, deeply enjoying my eating experiences, chewing slower, tasting more, pursuing different flavors to a greater degree, and making eating this really wonderful, enjoyable event every single day, and then enjoying sharing that with other people as well. It's a huge gift that I can't understate, but we'll probably stop talking about now. Number 9, I've learned that having hope for my future is priceless. I truly lost hope for my future in active addiction. I was a drinker and a dreamer. I was someone who would have these ideas and occasionally these grandiose conversations about all the things that I could do and the places I would go and the people I would meet and the successes I would have, depending on what I thought success meant, which is very much a teetering scale these days as far as what matters to me. But I was a drinker and a dreamer. And then I would wake up, often come to, and I would be anxious and down and a bit petrified at the end and sweaty and sick. And I knew deep down, even towards the end of my drinking, when very, very drunk, which was the baseline at night, that I was kind of full of it, that none of these dreams were going to happen, because I didn't know what was going to happen with my drinking. All I knew is that I kept getting drunk every night, and I would likely keep getting drunk every night. And therefore, I couldn't be depended upon to follow through with anything. Not for you, not for my wife, not for a business partner, not for a huge opportunity, and not for myself. I couldn't make plans for the morning. I seldom would make plans for even the early afternoon, because the amount of energy it took to be perceived as coherent and calm and collected was immense and essentially unattainable. I was fried. My nerves were fried. My emotions were fried, and I couldn't follow through. I was a bare minimum person as a drunk. A bare minimum person. I was a just get by person. And I had no hope for my future. No hope. And one day at a time, I have that hope again. And I've demonstrated to myself, and I've witnessed, even if you would consider it from a macro view, that I'm changing and that I'm becoming someone I respect. And I'm doing things I was never able to do. And it makes me proud and it makes me thankful, because I didn't have that before. So when I say I'll meet someone somewhere, I can be there. And when I decide there's something exciting I want to do, I can do it. I qualified for a huge CrossFit competition back in February, and only because of sobriety, recovery, consistency, and God and time and support, I was able to go just last week and compete in Missouri. It was awesome. I'd love to make a video about it. It's all sobriety. It's not me. My baseline is to kind of implode. My baseline, unfortunately, left to my own devices, is to self-sabotage. And I love having hope, and I have a lot of work to do in this department. Being sober has not made me this profoundly perfect person. It's actually kind of just put a nice spotlight on some character defects and weaknesses I have that I'd like to work on. But I actually think there's hope that I can work on them. And I just didn't think there was any hope for anything as an active drunk. And I keep saying this, but I just want to repeat it again and again. alcohol stopped working. It stopped doing that thing that it always did, and that broke my heart, and it frightened me to no end. That relief was gone. I was angry through the buzz. I was sad through the buzz. I was hopeless through the buzz. I was no longer getting that relief, and I'm just so glad that I don't have that on my back today, and I can actually just have hope for my mornings and my futures and my conversations and my dreams, and I can think about other people and other things. He's very good. But number 10 is this realization that not everybody wants to be sober. Not everyone is going to be sober, and it's not my responsibility or my job or my right to try and push sobriety on other people or keep other people sober. I don't know about you guys, if any of you are watching who happen to be in sobriety and in recovery, more specifically in that you don't just not drink, but you are working a recovery style program of whatever format. I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you, but I find myself wishing everyone was sober with me. I just wish everyone was sober because I've seen what has happened to my life. It's so abundantly clear that it's a good and positive thing for me. And I just want that for other people. And I find myself longing to have other people sober with me who probably and very most likely are not alcoholics. Some of them may be problem drinkers, or some of them may be casual drinkers who I think maybe don't consider how even getting drunk a couple times a week is not helping their life. I find myself wishing we were all sober together, and I find myself thinking how great the world would be if alcohol wasn't around, and wanting to almost preach the good word of sobriety and recovery to everyone. But I 99% of the time keep that here and try to be really thoughtful and tasteful about how I talk about sobriety, how I talk about the impacts of being sober and recovery, and how I make it about myself. I talk about my own story. I've had to really hone that in and realize that just because I'm sober doesn't mean I have a monopoly on growth. It doesn't mean I have some sort of high ground on self-improvement or emotional and mental health. It doesn't mean anything like that. If I ever start to drift into that thinking, I try to reel it back so fast because I think it's dangerous for me. I think it's egocentric, and I don't think it's going to be helpful to myself or anyone. But I do kind of still wish that more people were sober with me. And it makes me realize that it's important, one, to meet people where they are at, and two, not assume I know what's best for anyone, and three, a point within a point, continue to pursue relationships with people in recovery who happen to share this part of their story with me. Because to this point, I've avoided all drinking scenarios, except for being like at a restaurant where other people are drinking. But I don't go to barbecues where people are drinking. I don't hang out with people that are drinking. That's a topic for a different day. That's something I'll address in the future, much further down the road is my hope, because in the past it's been a slippery slope. But it has made me realize that it's really important to continue to foster and cultivate relationships with men who are sober and who want to go do sober things because we're just sober and this is what we do, as opposed to being the one sober guy at a party with people who are still drinkers. Finding that balance is its own thing, and I can make a whole nother video about every one of these topics, but I just have to remind myself, just because I'm sober doesn't mean everyone else is going to be, needs to be, or should be sober. To focus on myself, to remember why I am sober, and to not pretend to play God with other people like I know what's best for them. I don't even know what's best for me. I'm just following a path, and I'm reaping the benefits of at least an earnest pursuit of just a better life, just for today, just for me. So that was a fun video to make, long-winded. That's my style. I really appreciate you guys being here with me. I'd love to know how you're doing. Please let me know in the comments below. My life is going really well right now. I have so many things on my mind that I want to talk about. I haven't posted in quite a long time, and there's a specific reason for that, but I am doing well. I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm grateful. My good days outweigh my bad days by a wide margin, and I sure hope you're doing your very, very best also. If you're struggling, I encourage you to get help and support. I've always needed it. I continue to want it and need it. If you're doing well, I think that's great. Enjoy it. You deserve it. Don't hide it. Let your wellness shine. Blast that out to the world. We need more people to express their joy, I think, and not to hide it in. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for your time. Adios. Oh, jeepers.